28 people vaporized in 28 seconds. June 1, 1974. 4:53 p.m. The Flixborough chemical plant in North Lincolnshire exploded with the force of 45 tons of TNT. Windows shattered 30 miles away in Leeds. The blast crater was 50 feet deep. Every building on the 60-acre site was obliterated. Witnesses said the mushroom cloud looked like a nuclear bomb. The shockwave knocked people off their feet in villages 10 miles distant. A Saturday shift saved hundreds of lives. During the week, 500 workers operated the plant. That afternoon, only 72 were on site. 28 never went home. But here is what nobody talks about. The explosion was not an accident. It was not sabotage. It was something far more disturbing. A temporary pipe. Installed 2 months earlier. Designed by men with no engineering qualifications. Approved by managers who ignored every warning sign. And the worst part? Everyone knew it was dangerous. What happened in those 2 months leading up to 4:53 p.m. reveals a pattern that still kills workers today. Flixborough Works produced caprolactam. You have never heard of it. But you use it every day. Caprolactam creates nylon. Nylon 6, specifically. Clothing, carpets, car parts, toothbrush bristles. The plant opened in 1964. Operated by Nipro Limited. They were not small-time. Nipro was a major British chemical manufacturer. The Flixborough site ran 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Profit margins were tight. Downtime cost thousands per hour. The process was complex and dangerous. Cyclohexane, a highly flammable liquid, was heated to 155 degrees Celsius under pressure. It flowed through 6 massive reactors in sequence. Each reactor was 60 feet tall and weighed 120 tons. Reactor number 5 stood between reactors 4 and 6. On March 27, 1974, engineers discovered a crack in reactor 5. A vertical crack, 6 feet long, leaking cyclohexane. The plant manager, J.A. Baxter, faced a decision. Shut down the entire plant for months. Replace reactor 5 properly. Lose hundreds of thousands of pounds. Or find a workaround. Baxter chose option 2. He ordered his team to remove reactor 5 entirely and connect reactor 4 directly to reactor 6 with a bypass pipe. But here is what made this decision catastrophic. The distance between reactor 4 and reactor 6 was 23 feet horizontally. They were also at different heights. The pipe would need to bend. The engineering team had no one qualified to design high-pressure pipe systems. No calculations were made for stress, expansion, or vibration. The works mechanical engineer, Kenneth Appleby, sketched a design on a scrap of paper. A 20-inch diameter pipe. Made in 3 sections with 2 bellows joints to allow flexibility. They built it in the workshop using scaffolding pipes as templates. It took 6 weeks. No external consultants were called. No safety review was conducted. On May 1, 1974, they installed the bypass pipe and restarted the plant. What they did not know was that the pipe was already doomed. The bypass pipe vibrated from day 1. Workers reported seeing it shake. The bellows joints were never designed for this application. Bellows are meant for thermal expansion, not to support massive structural loads. The pipe carried 120 tons of cyclohexane under pressure. It was held up by temporary scaffolding. No proper support brackets. No stress calculations. Every hour it operated, metal fatigue grew worse. But nobody stopped production. Nipro was under financial pressure. The nylon market was competitive. Stopping meant losing contracts. Management prioritized output over safety. Engineers raised concerns quietly. They were ignored. The plant had no safety engineer on staff. The operations manager, George Chapman, had no formal engineering degree. The culture was clear: keep the plant running. What happened next should have been a warning. On May 28, 3 days before the explosion, workers noticed increased vibration in the bypass pipe. A maintenance log entry documented it. No action was taken. On May 29, the vibration worsened. A supervisor reported the pipe was moving visibly during operation. Still, no shutdown order came. On May 30th, the night shift supervisor noted the same issue. He told the day shift supervisor on June 1st. The day supervisor, Roger Wheatley, planned to inspect it after the weekend. He never got the chance. At 4:53 p.m. on June 1st, the bypass pipe ruptured. Not gradually. Catastrophically. The bellows joint at the south end failed first. high-pressure cyclohexane, superheated to 155 degrees Celsius, erupted into the air. 60 tons of flammable liquid vaporized instantly. It formed a massive cloud of cyclohexane vapor. The cloud was 50 feet high and spread across the plant in seconds. Then it found an ignition source. Nobody knows exactly what sparked it. A hot surface, an electrical fault, static electricity. It did not matter. The vapor cloud exploded with the force of 45 tons of TNT. The shockwave traveled at 6,000 feet per second. Every building within 200 yards was leveled. The control room, where 18 workers sat, disintegrated. They died instantly. 10 more workers in other buildings were crushed or burned alive. The blast was heard in Sheffield, 60 miles away. But the death toll could have been so much worse. The official inquiry began in July 1974. Led by Roger Parker, a high court judge. The investigation took 15 months. What they uncovered was systematic negligence. The bypass pipe design was never approved by a qualified engineer. No calculations existed for stress, pressure, or thermal expansion. The bellows joints were rated for small thermal movements, not structural loads. Under pressure, the pipe had bent upward in a dogleg shape. This created bending stresses the materials could not handle. Metallurgical analysis showed the failure started at a weld in the south bellows. The weld was substandard. Poor penetration, slag inclusions, microcracks. It had been slowly tearing for weeks. On June 1st, it gave way. But here is the most damning finding. Multiple warnings were ignored. A report from April 1974, found after the explosion, showed that a consulting firm had warned Nipro about unsafe temporary modifications. The report was never distributed to plant management. Internal memos revealed that production pressure overruled safety concerns repeatedly. One engineer, William Simpson, had written to management in May questioning the bypass pipe. His memo was found in the wreckage. No response had been sent. The Parker inquiry identified root causes beyond the pipe itself. No safety management system existed at Flixborough. No formal hazard reviews. No process safety expertise on staff. No culture of questioning dangerous practices. The company, Nipro, had prioritized production over everything else. The inquiry also found regulatory failures. The UK Factory Inspectorate had visited the plant in April 1974. They never inspected the bypass pipe. They never asked about recent modifications. They had no legal mandate to approve temporary changes. The legal framework was insufficient. The Parker Report, published in 1975, made 73 recommendations. It called for mandatory safety cases for hazardous installations. It demanded qualified engineering oversight for all modifications. It recommended formal process hazard analysis before any changes. These recommendations became the foundation of modern process safety regulations. The Control of Industrial Major Accident Hazards Regulations, known as COMA, was born from Flixborough. So was the concept of management of change systems in chemical plants worldwide. But 28 people had to die first. Flixborough is still taught in every chemical engineering program. It is case study number 1 in process safety. The bypass pipe is in textbooks as the perfect example of what not to do. Temporary modifications kill. That is the lesson. Management of change procedures now exist at every major chemical plant globally. No modification, no matter how small, happens without engineering review. Safety cases are mandatory in the UK, Europe, and many other countries. Process hazard analysis is standard. But here is what haunts investigators still. Flixborough was not unique. The same pressures exist today. Production targets. Cost cutting. Avoiding downtime. The temptation to take shortcuts never disappears. In 2005, the BP Texas City refinery explosion killed 15 people. A temporary trailer was placed too close to a hazardous unit. In 2010, the Deepwater Horizon disaster killed 11 workers. Temporary cement plugs failed. The pattern repeats. Flixborough taught the chemical industry that temporary is the most dangerous word in engineering. 28 men paid for that lesson with their lives. Their names are on a memorial near the old plant site. The site itself is now an industrial park. Nothing marks where Reactor 5 once stood. If you drive past North Lincolnshire today on a quiet afternoon, you would never know what happened there on June 1, 1974, at 4:53 p.m. And that is exactly why this story needs to be remembered. Because the next Flixborough is being planned somewhere right now, by someone under pressure, making a temporary fix that will become permanent until it fails. What other industrial disasters were covered up or forgotten? The files are still sealed. Subscribe for a new dark truth every day.